Welcome to the future, where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled, and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
So it's finally happened. It's finally reached that point. I am now ready to finally, after sitting on it for a little while, share with you my crazy-ass tinfoil hat-wearing Alex Jones-style conspiracy theory about gun control moving forward. What are we talking about? Well, let's first get into what we know about what the president has done with regard to gun control over the last week or so. Travis, what have you heard?
I actually haven't heard too much.
He took some specific action, but you were mentioning some other stuff.
The last that I had seen was that he was open to gun control measures and trying to change things and make things as safe as possible. I haven't actually come across anything specific. So this is where I'm actually very interested in hearing not only your crazy conspiracy tinfoil hat theories, but about what he's actually said.
So, do you know what a bump stock is?
I do, yes.
Okay, I don't fully understand how it works. You've been a cop. You understand guns and things like that. How does a bump stock turn a rifle into an automatic weapon, or does it? Because let's just be crystal clear on this, because the moment you don't get any of your terminology or technical facts right, people are going to come out of the woodwork and be like, I must correct you on this one, and that's really not what it's about. So let's just aim for being correct first and then get into it. But what does a bump stock do?
Well, first off, I just want to say that even while I was a cop, one of my biggest downfalls in being a police officer was I'm not a big gun guy. I never was before I was a cop, and I never was when I was a cop. So I really don't know that much about weapons. I respect gun rights. I'm all for gun rights. But if somebody's going to sit here and say, this guy's an idiot, he has no idea what a bump stock is, you're probably right, because I've never used one, and I'm not a big gun guy. But from what I understand, it's a replacement stock that you hold your finger on the trigger, and when you actually fire the gun, recoil pushes the rifle back, and it hits, I think some of them have springs, some of them don't, but it hits the spring, and it moves the rifle back forward, causing your finger to hit the trigger again and get another round off.
So, yeah, no, because, I mean, that's what I wanted to clarify. And I knew it was something along those lines, but because it doesn't make from what I understand, it doesn't make an automatic weapon, make a non-automatic weapon automatic, but it has a potential to allow you to shoot much quicker. And so there's the same way people will say an AR-15 assault rifle, and people go, what makes it an assault rifle? It's no different from, like, what is an assault rifle? Like, we don't want to get tied down in semantics here. An automatic weapon is a little piece of semantics, but bottom line is a bump stock is going to allow you to fire more bullets in a more rapid fashion. Correct? Are we staying correct on this one?
That's exactly what it is. Where an automatic weapon, you'd pull the trigger and hold it, and it would continue firing. This one, you do actually have to pull the trigger every single time that you want to shoot. However, the recoil throws it back, and then the bump stock pushes it back forward, causing your finger essentially to pull the trigger another time.
So from USA Today, President Trump has signed a memorandum instructing that gold standard of all knowledge and that gold standard of knowledge and wisdom. USA Today, all those eye-catching colors. According to USA Today, President Trump has signed a memorandum instructing the Attorney General to regulate the use of bump stocks, effectively banning the use of devices that can allow rifles to mimic automatic weapons. He made the announcement at a Medal of Valor ceremony and at the White House for a Medal of Valor ceremony at the White House for firefighters and police officers, some of whom intervened in shooting incidents. He said, "We can do more to protect our children. We must do more to protect our children." I can tell you that the president supports not having the use of bump stocks. This is what Sarah Huckabee Sanders said afterwards. Bump stocks, in case you did not know, were used in the Las Vegas shooting that killed 58 people on the 1st of October. And now, this is where things get a little interesting, because I think this is the first time someone on the right has said, hey, you should have less options when it comes to shooting. Generally speaking, every president on the right has, or every political leader on the right has been in favor of, and maybe this is a bit of a blanket thing, but every right-wing politician that I can think of when it comes to gun control is all about not taking away options from people who want to own things and shoot things. Does that sound about right to you, Travis?
I would agree with that. Yeah, I think that's a very accurate statement.
So it marks an interesting turning point in terms of politics and gun control. Now, this is where I float my conspiracy theory. This is where you get ready to don your tinfoil hat. This is where you go, hold on. I didn't believe I was tuned into Alex Jones, but I think that Donald Trump taking a stand, be it a stand on bump stocks, be it something larger, we'll have to wait and see how this all plays out. I think this is going to have an effect on the argument surrounding gun control that we've never seen before.
Say ho, ho, say ho, ho, ho. Let's start the show. Let's start the show.
Real radio.
104.1.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
Donald Trump took gun control action the other day. He has signed a memorandum instructing the Attorney General to regulate the use of bump stocks, which basically allow rifles to mimic automatic weapons. Now, what does this mean? To the best of my knowledge, and I'm sure there's going to be tons of people willing to do tons of homework that could correct me on this, but to the best of my knowledge, this is the first time we've seen someone on the right, someone very notable on the right, freaking president of these United States of America and leader of the free world, go, hey, people that like guns and like to shoot them and enjoy exercising their constitutional rights to do so, I'm about to give you less options than you had before. I'm about to take something away from you. Now, Travis, just I know I keep throwing it to you because it's gun stuff and you've been a cop, but if you had to guess, what would you say the argument for a bump stock is for someone who's sort of, interested in owning one?
I honestly don't know what the argument is. I mean, if you look at a bump stock, all it is it's a piece of plastic or whatever that replaces the original stock on the rifle, and it allows the rifle to move back and forth. So when the rifle recoils and it naturally bumps back into the stock, it comes back forward. So you keep your finger right where it is, and it causes the actual recoil to push the rifle forward and then come back in as if it were an automatic weapon, which is not an automatic weapon. However, that being said, I don't know.
Like, what's the practical application
That's what I don't
of
know.
this other than it's fun?
That's what I don't know. I don't know what the practical application is. I assure you, someone who looks at rifles or weapons like that and says, well, we need them in case the government comes, which I understand. And trust me, I don't trust the government. I guess they think that they need them to somewhat be able to mimic the firepower that the government would have trying to take their weapons away. That's the only thing that I can imagine. I don't know why.
Okay, so this diverges from the original point, but I have a question for you. As you have a gun, right? I know you did at one point. Yeah. So, do you think the idea of being allowed access to the same firepower that the government has to protect you from tyranny is still a legitimate argument?
As someone who doesn't really trust the government, I cringe at the thought of them taking away a right because of the fact that once they take it away, they're not giving it back.
A buddy of mine, an ex-military guy who has done some of the craziest things I have ever heard of. This is a guy who I want to have him on the show, and I don't know if I'm allowed to have him on the show, and I don't know if he knows if he's allowed to be on the show and talk about this stuff. But this is a guy who, we're taking your dog tags. We are not allowing you to write down any of these plans. We're going to drop you in the middle of the night, and you're going to go take out X, Y, and Z, and then call in air support, and just crazy stuff. And I asked him about it. I was like, what do you think about guns in the home? And he was like, I have one. He was like, I've got several guns in the home. I've got kids. They have to be kept safe. He's like, statistically speaking, if you have a gun in the home, you are more likely to be shot. I'm not everybody else. And I was like, well, what about with your wife? He was like, my wife, I don't want using a gun. She knows how to use a gun. I have taught her how to fight with a knife. I was like, what? He was like, it's quiet. He was like, my wife can gut a man like a fish in 3 seconds, thanks to my training. And I would, and I was like, well, that's terrifying, but interesting. And I was like, I mean, this is the dude who keeps gold in his backpack, gold and ammo in his backpack in case it's ever go time. God. So he's ready and he's seen stuff. And I was like, this idea of protecting yourself from tyranny with the same firepower that the government has, what do you reckon to that? He was like, I don't want our rights to be taken away, but that argument doesn't really work anymore. I was like, why doesn't that argument work anymore? He's like, dude, unless you've got an airplane that can put a bullet in every square inch of a football field in 2 seconds, the way the military does, you having an AR-15 isn't going to amount to a hill of beans when it comes to fighting off tyranny, quote unquote. He was like, do I believe that we should stay armed? Yes. Do I believe it is our right? Yes. Do I believe that the argument that we need to be able to fight back the tyranny of the American government? He was like, it's too late. That ship sailed a long time ago. When we were all operating with muskets and musket powder, maybe that was the case. But unless you've got aircraft carriers full of planes ready to bomb someone's ass, then guess what? You're outgunned by the government. It's just the way it is. I was like, so you're saying the government has more firepower than a pedestrian or a well-organized militia or a well-regulated militia? He was like, dude, it's not even close anymore. So, I mean, look, I know there's people angry listening to that, being like, you don't understand, we need our guns to take a stand against tyranny. And you know what? I'm not arguing against that, but I'm just saying that the day of the civilian being able to keep up with the government's firepower, that was a thing of the past a very, very long time ago.
My biggest concern is the concept that once you take it away, you're not getting it back. Are there people out there with logical reasons for why they need a bump stock? Yeah, possibly. Possibly there really are. Possibly there's a great explanation as to why you need one.
Well, this leads me very neatly into floating my harebrained conspiracy theory. And I think you're going to see, if this continues, if Donald Trump continues to do this thing where he starts taking away the options of people who like to shoot, different ways of getting bullets out of a gun, whether that be a bump stock, whether that be an AR-15, who knows? This is where the entirety of the gun control argument starts to shift, and we'll tell you why in a second.
I'm the king AD, there is none higher. Seconds in the age, you call me sire. Think you're gonna be the one to take me down and guess again? No. Whoa. Money making, skills on the mic, keep me paid every day. And for part of the battle, just bow down, better act like you know. Whoa. Come on.
For more stimulation and less irritation, 9 out of 10 doctors choose KPRC AM 950, Houston's more stimulating talk radio.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radio Land. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah. Give it up, yeah. Bring this on. Come on.
So if you're just joining us, we've been talking about the fact that Donald Trump took sort of decisive action in the world of gun control not so long ago. And that was, he signed a memorandum instructing the Attorney General to regulate the use of bump stocks. Now, regulate, that doesn't mean take away, does it, Travis? When I think about it.
It doesn't.
Yeah. Maybe this means fill out a questionnaire. Why do you need this bump stock? Do you think this bump stock is just for fun? Do you feel like your house is going to be attacked by numerous people and you'll be able to fight them all back with this? I mean, who knows? So regulate doesn't mean take away from. So we'll see how decisive of a move this is moving forward. Sarah Huckabee Sanders said, I can tell you that the president supports not having the use of bump stocks. The president does not support the use of those accessories. And as we were saying earlier, in case you missed it, a bump stock effectively allows a rifle to mimic an automatic weapon. It doesn't turn a rifle into an automatic weapon, but you can shoot more bullets faster, to the best of our understanding. So this is the first time I can think of that a right-wing politician has said, gun control. We need more of it. Options of shooting and ways of shooting and shooting paraphernalia. We need less of it. This is a stark contrast to the vast majority of what we've heard in the past. Now, when it comes down to gun control, frequently you hear the argument from the right, from pro-gun types that, hey, guns don't kill people, people kill people. We need to perhaps look into mental health. Perhaps we need to look into what makes people do this sort of thing in the first place. But we have entered a time, and it's sort of, we're not going to get deeply into this, but the gun control, the shooting issue has escalated very visibly in our lifetime. I was thinking about that song, Jeremy, Pearl Jam. Do you know it? It basically is about a mass shooting. And at the time, I remember, and this was when we were all in sort of middle school, high school, that age, it was a very rare thing. And Pearl Jam writing a song about it was, everybody knew exactly which one that was. It was this one that we all read about in the paper. Nowadays, if a band came out and released a song similar to that, we wouldn't necessarily know without doing some research which event they were talking about. This has escalated, like I said, since the grunge era. Since people were wearing flannel shirts and Doc Marten boots, the rise in this sort of thing that we've seen in our lifetime has been tremendous. Usually, when we track changes like this, they happen incrementally over a much larger amount of time. And there are entire shows which we've dedicated to in the past, and I'm sure we'll dedicate to in the future, about why this might be happening. But nevertheless, it is something that we're seeing an alarming escalation in our lifetime. And this is the first time that you've seen a president or a politician on the right say, hey, we need less guns, or we need less options for shooting these guns. We need to take away bump stocks. That's what Donald Trump said. This is where, like I said, I float my tinfoil hat wearing Alex Jones conspiracy theory style idea that this is where the argument around gun control changes. Because there's a lot of people who don't necessarily feel safe in Donald Trump's America. Rightly or wrongly so, there's a lot of people who will tell you, since Donald Trump became president, I feel more vulnerable. And in the past, when Barack Obama talked about gun control measures, there were people saying he's taking our guns. This is tyranny. We need to be able to fight against tyranny. Barack Obama is a potential Hitler, and he's trying to take our guns so we won't be able to fight back. We need to be able to revolt when the time comes to revolt, and he wants to stop us from being able to do that. That was the reaction to pretty much any time Obama said anything about gun control. Now, for the first time, we've got a Republican president on the right, a pro-gun president, a guy who said, I could shoot someone in the middle of the street and still get elected, and I do carry a gun. We've got Donald Trump saying, we want to cut down on the means by which people can shoot other people. And like I said, there's some people that don't necessarily feel safe living in what they see as Trump's America. There's minorities who feel as though Donald Trump's presidency, and by the way, I'm not agreeing with anything, I'm just sort of stating some facts here. There are minorities that feel as though in Donald Trump's America, racists have been emboldened. Anti-Semitists have been emboldened. The idea that there are growing anti-Semitic and anti-immigrant and anti-anyone who's anything other than white sentiments that people feel is their right to act upon. Trump's president now, we can do this, is sort of the battle cry that folks feel like they're hearing, is going to make people feel unsafe. What do people do when they feel unsafe? They look for some protection. What can you do in America for protection? You can have a gun. It's in the Constitution. It's all right. And it's interesting. I spent a good chunk of my life in Texas. When you're a Texan, a gun is not necessarily a clearly defined issue of right and left. A gun is perhaps an issue of, I'm in Texas. The 45 slug is a state bird, and this is a thing that we do. We shoot. We're from Texas. Doesn't matter what our political affiliation is. But I think that you're going to start seeing the more Donald Trump takes away your ability to shoot different kinds of guns in different kinds of manners, the more you're going to start hearing from the left people saying, hold up just a second. Hold on. I don't feel safe. And this guy who has emboldened the Klan, and by the way, I'm not agreeing with these people. I'm just saying this is how people feel. We can get into all the whys and wherefores of this later. But I think you're going to start hearing the left saying this guy who has emboldened racists, who has emboldened hate speech, who has emboldened the Klan, who has made people feel as though it's theirs and they're going to take it back. And we're not a part of that. Well, we're suddenly feeling like we need to be able to defend ourselves, and we need to know that we have all those options of defending ourselves that we had in the past. Don't feel safe in my own home. Don't feel safe walking the streets. I need to be packing heat. And this guy who is giving people license to hate us and to go after us is now trying to disarm us. I think for the very first time ever, you're going to hear a strong argument from the left saying you can't take our guns. Does that make sense, Travis Golightly?
It makes sense. And I'll tell you, it's very interesting, but this concept, this thought has never crossed my mind. Not once. Not once. Mm-hmm. If you had told me without explaining that Donald Trump potentially could cause the left to be on the opposite side of the gun debate,
of the gun control,
I would have thought you were crazy. But that being said, your explanation for it, this could be very interesting. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but I'll tell you, I never would have thought it's a possibility. The way you explain it, this will be very, very interesting.
Well, look at look at sort of militant left organizations. Yeah. I'm not going to name names because I don't, but the Antifa types, they're a fan of bats and clubs and things of that nature. Hop, skip, and a jump away to readying yourself for a more significant type of battle. And, a lot of people would say they're fringe wackadoo groups. And, if they are going to get guns, they're not going to be of the licensed, ID'd, serial numbered kind, yada, yada, yada. But nevertheless, man, it's one of those things where tensions are boiling. And it's just like, well, if they've got a gun, we want a gun. And it's an interesting time that we found ourselves in. And I think we don't want to get too deeply into this because everybody's getting way deep into this. And I just don't feel as though it's our place to talk about this stuff just yet with the specifics of the shooting that took place in Florida. It's just, to a lot of people, it feels okay. I'm not there yet. But I will say we have entered an incredibly heated time. And this time, for whatever reason, the shooting in Parkland felt different. Maybe it's the students vowing to never let us forget, and rightly so. Maybe it's because we as a nation have reached a tipping point. Maybe it's because everybody in America is so fearsomely dug in at the moment and rigidly attached to their beliefs and inflexible and unwilling to listen to anybody on the other side that we're at this point. But we are at an interesting and different point in American history. And this playing out at this time is a very telling thing. And mark my words, we're going to see some different arguments come up, ones that we never would have imagined happening. All right, Travis, shall we do a little news?
I think we should.
I thought maybe today, because boy, it really, it's been a heavy couple of weeks for sure. And I figured maybe we could go with a little fiscal conservatism later on in the show. That is also fun because, everybody knows fiscally conservative. That's tons of fun. But I came across an interesting article that tells me I'm doing absolutely everything wrong with regard to finances and how I use my credit card. Talking about things that you should never ever pay for by credit card. And we'll get into that a little later on. Right now, though, let's check out the events of today in the news. What is going on?
A sex tape of Black China has leaked online.
Oh. Do you know who Black China is?
Not a clue. I have no idea.
That is Rob Kardashian, Kim Kardashian's brother. That's his baby mama.
Oh.
I love how they use the word leaked. Yes, a sex tape has leaked online. Sure, if by leaked you mean was purposefully released on the internet in the hopes of making money, then absolutely it was leaked. But yeah, sex tape of Black China has leaked online. I've seen it, and this is actually good news for some people. This is the Black China sex tape is excellent news for those of you looking to get in shape for the summertime in need of an appetite suppressant. Ew. Go on.
Disgusting. Fergie admits Her national anthem at the NBA All-Star Game didn't strike the intended tone.
Oh. Really? What could possibly be wrong with this?
That our flag was still there.
All right, this is the best part. I'm sorry to do this to you again, but I just can't stop listening.
Oh, say, does that star spangled banner
Bring us home, Fergie. Bring us home.
Wow.
What did she say about it? What did she?
It didn't strike the intended tone.
Oh, I don't know. That all depends. It's relative. Was the intended tone the perfect recreation of a yowling feral cat attempting to break glass? Because if so, hashtag success. Like people say, like it was a stylistic swing and a miss. Like she did a smooth jazz version of the national anthem. Like she messed with the time signature, she messed with all sorts of elements of it, and it wasn't a stylistic thing. And here's the thing, I don't know if you've ever seen Fergie sing live before. Voice of steel, pipes that can't be beat. Like homegirl can really, and I mean really, really sing. She wasn't throwing the heat vocally. Like, you know, yeah, she took some chances with her interpretation of our national anthem.
Yeah.
But even if the question was the interpretation of it, the delivery was sort of, it's a good way of saying this, innocent of pitch, I suppose, is a good way of describing it. And you know what? As someone that made his living for a little while as a professional singer, I can sympathize, because there's all sorts of things that can affect, you know, your in-ear monitor doesn't work, or your monitor doesn't work, or you're getting weird feedback because you're in a basketball arena and, you know, the low end is throwing off your pitch and you're not exactly sure where you are. There are so many things that can happen in this situation to throw you off. And I do know Fergie absolutely has some pipes, and I'm sure she nailed that in rehearsal. It was just a wildly unfortunate thing. Yeah, like maybe if she'd managed to pull it off without wobbling. What was the Randy Jackson guy on American Idol? What was he saying? Little pitchy dog. If she'd been less pitchy, perhaps it would have landed a little better. But yeah, as it turns out, it did not. But I'd like to take this opportunity now to say, Fergie, we know you can sing.
It was bad. It was real bad. I thought it was a joke when I first heard it. It was very, very bad.
An anthem so bad that Laura Ingraham begged her to stop singing and talk politics.
Sometimes you just know you're done. You're longing for that shining sun. You walk these streets most every day. You're waiting to get washed away. Radio 104.1.
Now, more AD on the radio.
So what do you use your credit card for, Travis? Do you use a credit card? Is that a thing for you?
I do occasionally. Yeah.
I don't know why, but you strike me as a bit of a cash under the mattress type of guy.
Well, the problem is that my mattress is on a sailboat, and I do have this terrible feeling that it could sink at some point. Not
right.
Not because it's not a good quality sailboat, because it is. I mean, it's a beautiful boat, but you know, there's always sabotage. You never know what's going to happen, so I don't really trust.
Oh, I'm the conspiracy theorist? You're the one that thinks someone's going to sabotage your sailboat so your money sinks to the bottom of the ocean? Yar.
You're never too sure.
We shivered his timbers.
You always think back, and it's like, you know, I don't get mad often. I mean, very, very rarely. I can't remember the last time I was mad, but you always wonder if maybe, like, you made somebody mad, if you did something, you know, and you're like, are they going to come after me and sink my sailboat or something? So I try. So you always have to wonder. But no, I usually use my debit card. Occasionally, I'll use my credit card. Like if I want the points, generally that's when I do it. If I want points and I want to use or if I accrue points and I'm like, this thing costs $20, but I have $10 in points, so I could get it for $10. Then I'll swipe the card.
See, apparently I'm using my credit card all wrong. We'll practice a little fiscal conservatism a little later on today and discuss the things that you should absolutely not put on your credit card. And like I said, I've been doing things wrong. And we'll get into that after we do the news and after we listen to this DJ Suede remix of Fergie's national anthem that I just discovered. Hold on a second.
Oh, say, does that star spangled banner yet, never yet, never yet,
Fergie.
Oh my God.
Very good. Very good.
That's amazing. I think that's the only time you'll ever hear someone say something positive about that rendition of the national anthem.
It's so unfortunate because, like I said, Fergie's got pipes. She's like a session singer. Like, I don't know. I saw her live once at the rodeo in Houston. Someone was like, "You want to go see Fergie?" I was like, "Actually, yes, I do. I'm curious to see what that's all about."
Actually,
and she really sings her ass off, and she had like a bunch of solo hits at the time. I don't know how long ago this was, but I do remember she had a big solo record out, and then she basically was like the best bar singer in the world. She did a bunch of covers. She covered Led Zeppelin. She covered Pat Benatar. She covered all these sort of like amazing classic rock songs and murdered it. Did so well at it, and so like for her to blow it on that one in such spectacular form, and like I said before, we know you can sing, Fergie. It's okay. All right, what else? What's going on in the news?
Harry Connick Jr.'s daytime talk show has been canceled.
Yeah. Little telling that you never knew Harry Connick Jr. had a daytime talk show. That could be the reason why I was unaware that he was doing this. He does a little bit of everything, man. Like,
he does.
He's acted in a bunch of things, and I think he was in some sitcom back in the day, and he was really funny. I think he was in Will and Grace. I think he played like Grace's boyfriend on Will and Grace, and I remember like flipping around, being like, "Is that Harry Connick Jr.?" Wow, he's pretty funny with this stuff. And then I think he's been in a couple of movies where he plays dramatic roles, and maybe even one where he played like a psychotic killer or something like that. He does a little bit of, like I said, everything. And here's the weird thing. I find myself with a tremendous amount of respect for Harry Connick Jr. Not necessarily, well, I'd never seen his daytime talk show, and that's what I've got in common with everybody else, but that guy, you can't take away from him. He can really sing and really play. Like, he is a next level musician. Like, if everything else goes away, he can still sing and play better than most people will ever be able to sing and play in their life. So, swing and a miss, but he's got plenty to back it up. What else?
During an Olympic performance, a French ice dancer's top slipped and nearly exposed her breast.
Sweet. I love women's breasts, replied absolutely no guys watching the ice dancing on TV. What a tremendous waste. So,
yeah,
it's interesting. You say the headline says it nearly exposed her breast?
Nearly exposed it.
Because when Travis and I heard that there was a wardrobe malfunction in the Olympic ice dancing competition, to Google, we were just like, we were looking for it, and we were not able to find the nipple.
Exactly.
And we're just like, I guess it wasn't that bad of a wardrobe malfunction. I don't know. There you go. Anything else going on in the world of the Olympics?
A Russian curler has failed a doping test.
Hold on, a curler?
Yeah. Apparently it's...
I'm just trying to figure out I don't know what's sadder, that he's a cheater or that he's trying to gain an edge in curling. You know what? Maybe this is a little naive on my part. Curling could be really, really physically demanding. I mean, you gotta slide across the ice in that weird position. I don't know if I could hold that position not on the ice and not sliding. So maybe you need great leg strength to be a curler. I'm playing devil's advocate here. Help me out, Travis. Do you think this is true?
I don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't. Maybe I don't understand the all of the nuances of curling, and maybe you're exactly right. But no, I'm pretty sure you're wrong.
Okay, all right. Well, go on.
A farmer in India says putting a huge poster of porn star Sunny Leone in his field has helped his crops.
Wait, who? What's her name?
Sunny Leone?
Again, to Google.
I don't know who that is.
I'm not familiar with her work, but
I'm Googling.
She is
oh, wow.
easy on the eyes.
Yeah. Huh. Oh, she's part Indian. She's a Canadian, American-Canadian Indian actress.
Oh, well, that explains her popularity in India. Yeah. Farmer in India says putting a huge poster of porn star Sunny Leone in his field has helped his crops. Well, I would imagine at this stage in the game, the cucumbers have doubled in size.
I thought you were going to go somewhere with the carrots.
No, that would have been an option too. It's just so much low-hanging comedic fruit that any of them would have worked, I think.
This feels
Leave the stimulation to the professionals.
Everyone is so smart.
KBRC, more stimulating talk radio.
There's something happening here, and you should know what it is. The dumbing up of America. Now, more AD on the radio.
So you and I are going to practice some fiscal conservatism a little later on in the show when we discuss what you should not be using your credit card for. Apparently, I've been using my credit card wrong. If you've listened to the show for any length of time, you know that it's kind of hard to pin me down, politically speaking, just because I don't believe in a knee-jerk reactionary allegiance to a party. I believe in taking each issue as it comes, and I believe in taking individual politicians as they come as well. Now, here's the thing. As much as I am difficult to pin down, I think you might have picked up on the fact that I'm a bit of a fiscal conservative, and which is part of the reason why I am shocked to find out I am doing the whole credit card spending thing wrong when it comes to being fiscally conservative. We'll talk about this a little later on. Right now, though, Travis, let's roll through what remains of the news.
All right, a chicken shortage has forced KFC to close 600 restaurants in the UK.
No kidding.
Yeah.
600. That's a lot of stores.
It is.
I wonder if it's just a European chicken shortage. Did you get any sense that there's an American chicken shortage?
From what I understand, they changed their shipping agent when it comes to how the chicken is shipped over there, and I think they changed to DHL, and I guess there were some issues with logistics, and
so it's not a shortage of chicken, it's the chicken delivery method.
Yeah, it's a shortage of apparently available chicken because I think there was a delivery issue is what it was.
Huh. Although it might not actually be true, it just might be part of a strategy to make sure President Trump doesn't visit. We'll close down the KFCs. That will keep him out. Right. Whatever fast food does he like? Yeah. Got enough blade problems with Nigel Farage. All right, go on. By the way, I don't think names get that much more English than Nigel.
No, they don't. Nigel, I'm trying to think. What was the name of the brother in Frasier? Was it Nigel?
Oh no. It was oh my God,
Niles.
Niles, yes, yeah.
That's a British name as well.
It is.
What's the name of a standard British butler? Jeeves.
I mean, Jeeves is this is my favorite author, P.G. Wodehouse, the Jeeves and Wooster. Yeah, no, absolutely. So Jeeves.
Well, let me ask you, because you're British, and this is going to sound really stupid, but it's something that just dawned on me. Is Jeeves an actual name, or is it some sort of title?
Well, that was his last name. Jeeves was the last name, but my man okay. Jeeves.
Okay, very good. Okay, I wasn't sure. I really didn't know.
The name Nigel, though, I've yet to meet an American called Nigel. Have you?
Oh God, no, never. No, I have not.
Have you ever heard that song XTC?
Song XTC.
Making plans for
so.
Nigel?
No,
We're only making plans for Nigel. I actually knew
That's
Nigel's.
hilarious.
Yeah,
No.
I knew Nigel's growing up in England, and there's a certain whiny quality to the name Nigel. Like, Nigel, why have you got to do that again? Nigel. Nigel. Meh. Vegetable rice and peas. Where's Nigel? I was like,
as an American, like the whole British culture thing is very, very strange to me. Like, and don't get me wrong, I would happily live over there. But it's just so strange. Like, I don't understand it.
you say that, but the constant rain takes a toll on a person's soul. Like, honestly, like, it rains a lot there, and it's not sort of that big satisfying downpour of like, I love England. I love England. I loved living there so much. I miss it so much. If I ever got an opportunity to go back there and work, I'd really probably take it, but I don't know if I could live there forever, because you get 2 years of constant gray drizzle and this weird chill that gets you to the bone, and it messes with your head. It really does. I've got good friends from England that moved to Orlando, where this show airs, for exactly that reason. It's just the lack of sunshine does does your head in a bit, mate. It does. It really does.
That's understandable. I mean, I could see that.
But go on. What were you saying about England? You'd love to live there? And
I would love to live there, but it's such a strange, like, I don't know. It seems so, and I know this sounds so stupid. It sounds so different. It just seems so different from America. Like, everything about it, like even the names are so different. It's just very, very
Nigel.
odd.
It is different. There's no two ways about it. It's different. It's a different culture. It's a different country. Here's the thing, though. That English polite thing, that's real. That exists. Like, and for that reason, it's kind of easy to navigate your way through, because people are polite and helpful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And very matter of fact. Here's one thing that I find that English people are able to do, because they're so sort of unemotional in lots of ways, that they're able to disagree without taking it as a personal affront, where you go outside and fight each other because you have a difference of opinions. They're like, I don't think that's really going to work for me. No, I don't agree, but it's lovely you think that. I hope it gets you somewhere. All right, then. I'm just going to go about my life, and you go about yours, and everything will be fine. All right, then. Like, that. Yeah. They're better at disagreeing without it turning into, oh, you clearly hate me and you're anti-America, and like, it's the art of being able to disagree without thinking it's the end of the world. That's one thing that I think a polite society sort of gives you a little bit. And they do it without the guns too. That whole expression, an armed society is a polite society. Well, they're just sort of intrinsically polite, and no one has a gun. That's kind of interesting. As Robin Williams once said, in England, you don't have a gun and the police don't have a gun. So it's stop, or I'll say stop again. Like,
it's so funny, because like the first thing that I think of whenever I think of Britain and stuff, England, is the immediate thing anytime I hear an accent that comes to mind is that movie National Lampoon's European Vacation, where they arrive and he walks up to the front desk to check into the hotel, and Chevy Chase, the guy, starts talking to him. He pulls out the translator and he's starting to type things in, and Rusty's like, Dad, he's speaking English.
Dude, I lived kind of all over England, mostly in London, but I lived in Brighton for a little bit. Now, the accents in Brighton aren't really that different to the accents in London, and the south of England sort of has a consistent thing. I mean, within London, you get all these different accents, but I lived in Newcastle for a little bit, or Newcastle, as people pronounce it properly, with the emphasis on the right syllable, Newcastle. I lived up in Newcastle for a little while, and one of my best friends still lives there to this day. The accent up there is so unusual that, like, my friend who's lived there for, I don't know, 20 years now, he'll like, dude, he said, people get going, they talk fast enough, and I swear to gosh, I have no idea what they're saying. And it's this weird, it's heavily influenced by sort of like a Scandinavian accent, because up north, that's where the Vikings did all their best conquering and pillaging back in the day. So I guess the northern accent is sort of like this weird amalgamation of English and Scandinavian that exist for whatever the hell reason. But yeah, it is a different thing there for sure. Absolutely.
I'll still remember when I first moved to St. Thomas, Virgin Islands. I was hanging out with a buddy of mine and some of his friends, and we were all sitting at the table and like eating lunch or something. And he was talking to them, and I wasn't sure what language they were speaking. I thought maybe it was Haitian or something. And so we're sitting there talking, and they all started laughing. I kind of started laughing, and he looks over at me, and he goes, "Do you know what we're laughing at?" And I said, No, I don't. And he goes, "What language do you think we're speaking?" I said, "Is it Haitian?" And he goes, "No, it's English." And I said, "Oh, well, that's really awkward." They just had really heavy accents, like very Caribbean accents. I couldn't understand a word of it.
Yeah.
I felt so stupid.
Yeah. It's a weird sensation to realize you're not understanding your own language.
It's so true.
Yeah, especially for like the vast majority of the English-speaking world only speaks English because the vast majority of the rest of the world learned how to speak English. So when we go overseas, when we go abroad, everybody speaks our language. And I got to tell you, it's probably one of my biggest sources of shame that I'm only fluent in English. Like little bit of Spanish, even less French. But like, God is my witness, I will become fluent in another language before I kick off this mortal coil, because I think it's a disgrace to the human race that I have only, especially because I grew up around all these kids that spoke like 5 different languages. I used to babysit this kid when I was like 12. His parents were friends with my parents, and like he used to come over and I would give him drum lessons and stuff. And this kid he had a German father and a Japanese mom, and he lived in England, and his father would only speak German to him and his mom would only speak Japanese to him, and he spoke English because he lived in England. And by the time he was 8, he could have been a translator at the UN. Like it was insane. I'm just God. I know. And then he went off to school and learned Spanish and all this other sort of stuff, and it just made me feel like just so not even intellectually diminutive. It just made me feel as though I wasn't holding up my end, like I was a bad citizen of the world. Because, anyways, should we talk about fiscal conservatism a little? I think we should talk about it. So, all right. So, what do you put on a credit card, Travis?
Just occasional purchases is about all that I really put on there. If I'm buying something like expensive, then I'll put it on there just to get the points, and then I'll immediately make the payment off of it. That's about all I use them for.
See, I use my credit card for absolutely everything. Every last purchase, I make it on my credit card. And I do that for much the same reason that you do, the points. But I pay it off every single month. Like, I never carry a balance going forward. And I don't do that because I like everybody that's 19 and gets signed up with a credit card, I got into some trouble in my early 20s, and it took me a while to dig myself out from underneath that. But the general rule for credit cards apparently is that they're only for emergencies. I don't live like that even a little bit, but these are 5 things that you really shouldn't use them for. And I guess like the whole you should only use them for emergency thing. Like if I pay mine off every single month, like I treat it like an American Express card, that's okay, right, Travis?
I would think so. I mean, that's generally what I do. I try not to carry a balance on mine.
Also, here's what's weird. If you go to buy a home and you get a credit check, having a 0 balance on your credit card, it doesn't help. You have to have revolving credit. It's really, really weird. Not having credit card debt affects your credit in a negative way. Now, you're not actually going into debt, but you need to, like, this is what I do. I pay off the statement balance every single month. So, there's going to be what the statement closes out on the 1st, my bill's due on the 8th, or I don't know, but there's always something left over at the end of it because the new statement's just starting up. So you pay off the statement balance every single time, and that keeps you in revolving credit, and that's actually having a little bit of credit card debt, weird as it sounds, is actually good for your credit. Don't mishear me on this one. I'm not saying let interest pile up. This is an amount of money that no interest accrues on ever for me. But yeah, you need revolving credit to have credit. It's strange. Anyways, you shouldn't use credit cards for big ticket items you want but don't need. That's the most obvious one. You might want a new TV, but it's not worth going into debt for. A lot of stores are going to give you 0% financing for stuff like that. Even then, it's only worth it if you have a plan to pay it off before the interest-free period expires. Don't use it to pay off back taxes. Although when I had back tax problems, Uncle Scam was like, just put it on a credit card. It'll be great. I was like, no, thank you very much. Absolutely not. College tuition and books. Student loans are much better because the interest rates tend to be a lot lower. Medical bills. Most doctors and hospitals will work with you to help pay them off, sometimes with no interest. And finally, do not take a cash advance on your credit card to buy stocks or make other investments. Buying stocks or other things like Bitcoin with a credit card, not a smooth move. Even if you do turn a profit, the interest cuts into it, so it tends to be not worth the risk. All right, then. Now we know.